The recent Iranian missile strikes on the United Arab Emirates have not only intensified geopolitical fault lines, but also exposed the vulnerability of foreign nationals, many of them African, caught in the crossfire. With air travel disrupted and diplomatic responses unfolding, we turn our focus to the broader implications for Africa and its citizens. Joining us to unpack this complex moment, we have Yemi Fajemisin, a geopolitics analyst in Glasgow, UK. Thank you so much, Yemi, for joining us at this time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Dashin.
It's a pleasure having you as always. Now, Yemi, we're seeing a very specific and tragic demographic in the casualty list. I'm talking about nationals from Ethiopia, Eritrea, Uganda, and Egypt. What does this, conflict or this shift due to the conflict from a regional tit-for-tat into a global humanitarian crisis that African capitals simply can no longer afford to ignore?
Yeah, thank you. I think when it comes to conflict like this, everybody is caught in the crossfire. For example, we have the UK government just announced this morning that they're sending an evacuation flight to Oman to begin to bring people back home. And I think African countries have the responsibility to do the same. Now, I understand most African countries don't have the financial muscle to do these things, but the least they could do is to maybe offer an advice as to what their citizens can do and where they can shelter. So, for instance, today I looked at the Nigerian Foreign Office website in Dubai. There was absolutely nothing that I saw concerning the safety of Nigerians or even giving them advice of what to do, let alone trying to send out flights to bring people back home. So I think this is not really an African thing. Everybody is caught in the ceasefire. We all know in the Gulf region, there's so many people live there. Dubai, for example, the UAE is a country with so many nationalities from Pakistan, from Dubai. So everybody's kind of caught up in this moment. And I think it's expected that a lot of countries, including poor African countries, will be there as well. But this is the responsibility of every country to look after their own people. Where they cannot send flights to bring people back home, they should at least be offering advice through their local embassies, as opposed to helping people. The only thing I can suggest this time around is, though, most of all this, anyone trapped, any African citizen trapped, they will probably be going to the local authorities, maybe in UAE, to see where they can shelter. But I think overall, I think it is the responsibility of every country to look after their own people when it comes to conflicts abroad.
Okay, now you're talking about, people being trapped, but the UAE military is claiming a high interception rate. Yet we have nearly 60 people injured by falling debris and shrapnel in major residential hubs, by the way. Is the grim reality here that in a modern drone swarm or ballistic era, there is no such thing as a truly impenetrable city, no matter how advanced the defense tech is? Is that the reality?
Yeah, I think that's the reality. If you speak to many security experts, they will agree as well that it's only so much your interceptions can do. You can have missiles that will intercept any incoming projectile, but that doesn't mean one of them can't slip through. And also, when you have interceptions that happen in the sky, you often have debris, like you said, falling on people. What we also need to understand is most states keep secret the amount of interceptions or projectiles they do have, so that they don't want any of their enemies or adversary to know those kind of information. So what we should be worried about now as well is a case of Iran. We don't know if they still have many thousands of missiles stashed on the ground. And most of all these Gulf countries, their neighbors, we don't know how much batteries they've got left in terms of to intercept those things. So we don't know in few days, few weeks, if they will be overwhelmed. And we begin to see free missiles even launching through easily. So as for me, I would say that's the main worry. But it does happen in case of it's only so much your intervention can do. In terms of, you could have a situation where one missile can just slip through and will cause so much damage.
Absolutely.
It could be a case of a shell of a missile coming down the skies. So that's why you're seeing so many cases of of people getting injured. We should also remember there's drones. Iran also does a lot of drone warfare. So, and drones are not easy to intercept by any missile from ground to surface.
Yeah.
That's why you've seen cases of countries dispatching their military jets to actually shut down the drones. The question is, these things are not sustainable.
Okay, now I think it's no news that Iran strikes, follows a massive joint operation by the U.S. and Israel against Tehran's leadership. Now, but by targeting the UAE, which is, by the way, a global business and tourism hub, is Iran essentially admitting that striking the U.S. directly is too risky and choosing instead to punish the West by hitting its most vital economic arteries?
Yeah, we all know Iran is no match for the US or even Israel. They're superpowers, and I think I'm not sure Iran hasn't got any ICBM to reach the shores of the US. And one thing we should also remember is the proxies of Iran. They've been decimated, which is Hamas has been decimated during the Gaza war. Hezbollah in Lebanon, they've been decimated as well. So Iran is weak. So they're thinking of a strategy. What can they do? So what they're doing now is to attack their neighbors in order for their neighbors to put pressure on America to stop the war. And now they're attacking their neighbors. They're doing it through, they know most of the GCC countries like UAE, Qatar, they have oil and gas. Yeah. So their calculation is if they begin to attack all the oil installations, they begin to block the passage. Basically, they want to stop the global economy by putting a stop to any oil that leaves that region. So they're thinking doing that is going to put pressure on Trump or America and Israel to stop the war. The problem of that is if you keep doing that, you're making enemies with your neighbor. So far, those neighbors have not said anything like they're going to respond. What if they say tomorrow they're going to be responding to the threats of Iran? Things will get very messy. But that's a warfare Iran is trying to wage now to try to put a stop in the oil that leaves the region.
Well, it's quite ironic because for the last few years, the narrative has been one of de-escalation and re-engagement between Tehran and its neighbors. Now, with the UAE now withdrawing its ambassador and closing its embassy, have we just witnessed the total collapse of a decade's worth of Middle Eastern diplomacy in a single night?
Yeah, I think there will be diplomacy going round behind the scenes. There will be diplomats talking to each other to see how they can de-escalate things and even talking with their Iranian counterparts. We should also remember that historically, that region has always been very flammable. Even before this war, within themselves, they usually have these conflicts and arguments. Years ago, I remember when Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and some other countries led an economic blockade against Qatar. So they did a blockade against Qatar for land, sea, and air, which was serious then. So this region is not really, they're not new to this kind of conflicts. It's always been there historically. And I'm afraid after this crisis as well, it doesn't mean it's going to end. It's a region that is very flammable, very combustible. These things do happen there. And I think most of the diplomats around that region understand this risk as well. That's why some of them put so much pressure on the US not to even start this war on the Eastern. But I think back to your question overall, I don't think it's going to be a complete breakdown of diplomatic talks. I think behind the scenes, there will be negotiations going behind, speaking to the Americans, speaking to their neighbors, even speaking to the Iranian regime now, or the Revolutionary Guards. Maybe they are the ones running the show now to kind of pipe down. And one thing I will stress is there's something that worries a lot of diplomats, which is Iran attacking all the water installations around the GCC. We all know that region is a desert region. And the water facilities that actually service millions of people there, they are very vulnerable to attacks. For now, Iran hasn't done that. They haven't gone that far. So which is a sign of they're still kind of exercising some restraint. Okay. So I think talks will still be going on, but it's not broken down totally yet.
All right, but then, in as much as we agree that talks might still be going on underground, Dubai and Abu Dhabi have long branded themselves as safe havens for global capital and international transit. If these strikes become a recurring feature of the conflict, how long can the UAE realistically maintain its status as the world's leading logistics and aviation crossroads?
Well, I think they can do it. The main question or the main worry is going to affect the confidence of investors to keep going to that region. Because right now the UAE is, like you said, is a hub for like investment. And one thing the UAE is even picking up on is the AI bubble. Because, for instance, Iran attacked one of the Amazon data centers in the UAE as part of this retribution. So what will happen in the long run if this carries on will be lack of confidence in the region, in the UAE, in terms of investment. And that's when investors will be looking at maybe de-risking or diversifying a lot of their investments just because of this kind of shocks. Then it will be up to the UAE government at that point to try as much as possible to shock-proof their investment or their economy. And the only way to do these things, to be honest with you, is to keep carrying on the diplomatic talks. So not to encourage wars, not to encourage conflicts. And the only way to do that is for people to keep talking to each other as much as possible. But in terms of that, nobody knows the future. My guess is investments will feel a bit of lack of confidence now, and they will be looking to de-risk their investments in future if there's no pathway to peace in the long run.
Okay, I know you said that, some African countries might be too poor to evacuate their citizens, and in the absence of that, they should actually, find a way to advise. Now, the African Union has expressed deep concern for its citizens caught in the crossfire. But beyond rhetoric, what actual leverage do African nations hold, in these places? I'm talking about places being attacked, Dubai and the likes, the UAE in general. Is there a coordinated path for them to pressure both Tehran and Washington as well to de-escalate before more of the African diaspora is caught in the line of fire?
Yes, in terms of diplomacy, the only thing African countries can do now is just to keep offering their support to peace. They'll be trying not to, they must be, or most of them will try not to take any sides, obviously. Iran doesn't really, I don't think Iran does a lot of diplomatic talks with many African countries. Why? Because Iran has always been under severe sanctions anyway. So they don't really have any means of proper engagement with African countries that much. And most African countries try as much as possible not to annoy the West, especially African countries that depend on foreign aid from America or from Israel, from maybe the European Union, things like that. But the only thing I think the African AU, as in terms of unity, can do is to keep offering their support for peace and diplomacy. And even if some of they can offer something like be willing to host any peace talk or any peace negotiation in an African continent. So they will offer things like that. But I think that's about what they can do now, to be honest with you. Behind the scenes, they keep offering their support, but I think they'll be careful not to take any sides of this unfolding. Things are unfolding every minute of the day. Most of them will try not to take sides because they don't want to annoy the U.S. administration.
Yeah. Now, the UAE has also been very clear about its right to respond to this violation of sovereignty. But what does a measured response even look like in this climate? Or are we now past the point of no return where a full-scale regional war is, inevitable?
Yeah, they've said that, and that's exactly what a lot of people are worried about. Because it's okay for Iran. Everybody understands what Iran is trying to do. They're trying to stop oil from leaving that region and cause panic for global economy. And that's why they've not been attacking any civilians in any of their neighbors. They've just been attacking installations, oil, gas. So we get what they're trying to do. And the neighbors, they've been trying to exercise restraint. So what they've been doing so far is just to be intercepting all the missiles and shutting down the drones. They haven't gone far yet to say they're going to be responding to Iran. And they're saying that because they don't want the region to be engulfed in a full war, which many of them have that experience. That region has always been flammable. Most of all the emirs or the autocrats in the GCC, they're old enough to remember what they went through, the Gulf War I, the Gulf War II. So they're trying to make peace as much as possible. I think in the long run, diplomacy will still have to play its parts because there's only so much bombing Israel and the US can do without boots on the ground. It is impossible to have a regime change from the skies. I don't think history is alluded to that. So at some point, diplomacy will still have to play, and I'm sure most of the GCC countries are really working hard behind the scenes to make that happen. So I wouldn't be surprised in a few days' time if we hear any news or announcement to say there will be a pause, a ceasefire for talks to continue.
All right, now just before we let you go, Yemi, Rwanda, according to reports, is currently speaking to experts, looking at the prospect and assessing the readiness for nuclear power. Let's have your thoughts on that.
Rwanda, you say?
Yes.
Rwanda, to me, is an autocratic state that doesn't respect the rule of law. So we have a situation where Paul Kagame, the president, thinks it's okay to march into Goma, Eastern Congo, and commit atrocities, of all sorts, just because he thinks he can. So Rwanda, I don't see Rwanda as a state that respects the rule of law, and I don't see anything meaningful coming out of the Rwandan government, to be honest with you. I think we live in a world where there should be absolute respect for rule of law, for international law, regardless of who is in power. And especially a case where we are, as Africans, as a continent, we've been through so much. And I don't think anyone is dispensable. I mean, what Rwanda has done in Goma in Congo is despicable. And it shouldn't be happening. And it's unfortunate that the African Union has done a blind eye to it. I mean, years ago, Rwanda now is saying they're exporting gold. Rwanda was never known to have gold as mineral resources. So all of a sudden, they're saying they are now an exporter of gold. Where's that coming from? My guess is it's from Eastern Congo in Goma, where they're doing and committing an atrocity there through their proxy militia called M23 group. So Rwanda is not a country that I'm really keen. It's unfortunate. I speak as a Nigerian, as an African. I don't think that should be happening. So Rwanda is not a government, honestly, I'll take seriously.
As always, and for speaking so, fantastically on this. Thank you so much.